If you are trading time for money, and that is the only way money comes into your life, you are one bad month away from being in real trouble. A job loss, a health scare, or a pay freeze, and suddenly the gap between what you earn and what everything costs becomes impossible to ignore. But there is a growing number of Australians who have quietly built a second income that hits their bank account whether they show up to work or not. No second job, no side hustle, no extra hours. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how they are doing it. 5 real strategies, the actual numbers each one pays, and where to start depending on how much you have right now. Why a second income matters more than ever in 2026. Let's start with why this matters so much right now. The cost of living in Australia has not come down the way people hoped. Rents are still near record highs in every capital city. Groceries, power bills, and insurance are all higher than they were 3 years ago, and wages have not kept pace. Research from the Australian Bureau of Statistics shows real wages have only just returned to where they were before inflation took off, which means for most Australians, the salary alone is doing less than it used to. A second income stream does not just give you more money, it gives you something most Australians never have, which is options. The option to change jobs without panic, the option to take time off without disaster, and the option to actually build wealth instead of just surviving from one pay cycle to the next. And here is the part that most people miss. You do not need to earn a second income from work. Money itself can do the earning if you set it up correctly. Strategy 1: Dividend income from ASX shares and ETFs. The first and most powerful strategy for most everyday Australians is dividend income from ASX shares and ETFs. When you own shares in an Australian company, that company pays you a portion of its profits called a dividend. And in Australia, those dividends come with something almost no other country offers: franking credits. When an Australian company pays you a dividend, they have already paid 30% company tax on those profits. The government hands that tax back to you as a credit. So a stock showing a 4% dividend yield on the ASX is actually paying you closer to 5.5 or 6% once franking is included. Now let's put real numbers to this. If you have $20,000 invested in a diversified Aussie dividend ETF, like VHY, which targets higher yielding ASX companies at a grossed up yield of around 6%, you are earning roughly $1,200 a year. That is $100 a month landing in your account without doing a single extra hour of work. Scale that to $50,000 invested, and you are looking at around $3,000 a year. At $100,000, that becomes $6,000 a year, or $500 every single month. The beauty of dividend ETFs is that you do not need to pick individual stocks. VAS gives you the entire ASX 300 with instant diversification. VHY targets higher yielding names with a stronger income focus, and both pay distributions quarterly, meaning income arrives 4 times a year, like clockwork. Strategy: 2 high-interest savings accounts and term deposits. The second strategy is the simplest one, and it is one a lot of Australians are finally taking seriously after years of near-zero interest rates. High-interest savings accounts. With the RBA cash rate sitting at 4.1% in 2026, the best savings accounts from providers like ING, UBank, and Rabobank are paying ongoing rates between 5 and 5.5% when monthly conditions are met. On $20,000 sitting in one of these accounts, that is $1,000 to $1,100 a year in interest. It is pure passive income, requiring nothing more than keeping your money there. Term deposits take this one step further, locking your money away for 3, 6, or 12 months in exchange for a fixed guaranteed rate. Right now, the best 1-2 month term deposits are sitting between 4.8 and 5.2%. The trade-off is that your money is locked, so this strategy works best for money you will not need to touch. Think of it as the foundation layer of a passive income plan. Safe, predictable, and completely hands-off. Strategy 3: Fixed income and bond ETFs. The third strategy is one most everyday Australians have never considered: fixed income investing through bond ETFs. Bonds are essentially loans you make to governments or large corporations in exchange for regular interest payments. In Australia, the easiest way to access this is through ETFs like VAF, the Vanguard Australian Fixed Interest ETF, or PLUS from VANEC, which targets higher-yielding corporate bonds. Current yields on Australian bond ETFs sit somewhere between 4 and 5.5%, depending on the fund. What makes bond ETFs attractive as a second income tool is that they pay monthly distributions, not quarterly like most share ETFs. So, if dividend shares are paying you every 3 months and bond ETFs are paying you every month, you are already building a more consistent income rhythm. The risk is lower than shares, but so is the long-term growth potential. For someone who wants steady income with less volatility, a small allocation to bond ETFs makes a lot of sense. Strategy 4: Rental income without buying a property. The fourth strategy is property, but not the version most people imagine. Buying an investment property in Sydney or Melbourne in 2026 requires a deposit of $150,000 or more, and the rental yield after costs often sits below 3%, which makes it one of the hardest ways to build passive income right now. But there is a version of property income that is far more accessible. Renting out a spare room through platforms like Flatmates or listing a space on Airbnb, we can generate between $800 and $2,000 a month, depending on your location and how often the space is used. Under Australian tax law, you can rent out a room in your primary residence, and the first $18,200 of that income sits below the tax-free threshold if it is your only other income source. It is not entirely passive someone is staying in your home, but for Australians who already own or rent a property with unused space, it is one of the fastest ways to generate a meaningful second income without any upfront investment. Strategy 5: Digital royalty income. The fifth strategy is the lowest barrier to entry and the one with the most variety: digital royalty style income. This covers things like selling photography or video footage on platforms like Shutterstock or Adobe Stock, creating a digital product like a template, spreadsheet, or guide, and selling it on Etsy or Gumroad, writing an ebook or course and earning ongoing sales, or recording voiceover work or music that earns streaming and licensing royalties. None of these make you rich overnight, and all of them require upfront effort to set up. But the key difference from a second job is that once the asset exists, it can keep earning without more of your time. A well-optimized digital product on the right platform can earn $200 to $800 a month consistently from work done once. The trap you need to avoid. Now, before you run at the highest yielding option you find, there is a trap that catches a lot of people, and it is worth slowing down for. Chasing yield without understanding the risk behind it is one of the most expensive mistakes an income investor can make. If you see a stock on the ASX paying a 12 or 14% dividend yield, it is almost never as good as it looks. Either the share price has collapsed because the business is in serious trouble, or that dividend is about to be cut, and the yield you are seeing is based on a payment that will not be repeated. Sustainable passive income comes from quality assets, paying reasonable yields, not from reaching for the highest number on the screen. Where to start based on what you have right now. So let's make this practical, because the question most people have is not which strategy is best in theory, it is where do I actually start with what I have? If you have $5,000 right now, open a high-interest savings account and park it there, earning 5% while you learn about dividend ETFs. That $5,000 is already earning you $250 a year more than it was doing in a transaction account. If you have $20,000, split it across a high-interest savings account for your emergency buffer and a low-cost dividend ETF like VAS or VHY for income and long-term growth. That combination puts you on track for a growing passive income stream from day one. If you have $50,000 or more, you can build a proper layered income portfolio, dividends from ASX ETFs for the bulk of your income, a bond ETF allocation for monthly cash flow, and a high-interest savings account for your liquid emergency fund. At that level, you are looking at $2,500 to $3,500 a year in passive income just from the investment side before any other strategy is added. Bringing it all together, here is the truth. Most Australians are one decision away from having a second income stream. Not one promotion, not one windfall, one decision to stop leaving their money idle and start putting it to work. The strategies exist, the platforms are accessible, and the tax system in Australia actually rewards income investors through franking credits and the tax-free threshold in a way almost no other country does. You do not need a second job. You need a second income. And those are two very different things. If this video helped you see how to actually build that, do me a favor and hit the like button. It helps more Aussies find this content. If you are not subscribed yet, now's the time. And do not forget to turn on notifications so you do not miss the next one. I will see you there.